And all right, guys. So welcome to those who are live here, and really appreciate each of you taking your time out, valuable time out, to continually commit to these Technique Tuesdays, we call them, because growth is an important facet of our journeys as fitness pros, as professionals, and by doing that, even half an hour, 1 hour. We're getting disciplined. So I really appreciate you guys coming on board. Those who obviously can't make it, really awesome that you could watch this presentation. And if you've been quite regular, which some of you folks have already, you're going to get a ton out of it. And the only way that you can get a ton out of it is if you certainly implement the strategies inherent in each of these conversations, as well as I don't want to always speak at you, but speak with you. So together we can start to expand our understanding in these real key different topics that fall under mindsets, that fall under productivity, that fall under our classic how-to when it comes to training. So in this particular segment, I'm going to focus on the recovery systems. We do teach in our course, the Movement Restoration Coach, a portion of that. That recovery systems is the new part of our program offering. And within that, what's really critical is that we've partnered with, we've done a lot of stuff with a guy named Dr. Stephen Bird. So he's an Aussie guy, and he's the guy who really created this 100-point recovery checklist, which he used for athletes that he trained, Indonesian athletes, Australian athletes, and this is at Olympic level. Very smart guy, very humble guy. And him and I have gotten together a few times. In fact, if you guys had seen the webinar that I did with Stephen, it is in the VIP group, but I think I may have uploaded it too in the portal under Technique. So, in the platform itself, you guys can actually go in and get all these recordings and the downloads. So, that's what's inspired, and I never like to say that I've come up with something. It's me really building off the great work that Stephen Bird has created, and what I've done is effectively adopted and adapted it and molded it specifically for the fitness space. And so what I want to do here with this particular presentation is allow you guys to harness that and really customize it, personalize it, because it's not necessarily a tool that you simply plug and play. You ought to customize it and see how relevant it will be for your service offerings. So ultimately here at Momentum, well, below, I'm standing above it in the office, but below me is our gym space in Sydney. So if ever you guys ever come, I'd love to show you around if you're in Sydney. And yeah, we do incorporate recovery. So move, perform, restore is our motto. And I'm sort of redefining how we teach recovery-based classes, and we do recovery on two fronts. Recovery can be done at the end of a session, and oftentimes, this is where I think where coaches get undone. It's a conversation I've had with Stephen many times. It's on, basically there's two functions for recovery. So you guys can start taking notes of this. The two functions of recovery are a psychological phenomena and a physical phenomena. And both of them are interrelated. So a lot of studies around like flotation tanks, for example, look at that as being a psychological phenomena, right? So an opportunity to totally relax and quieten the monkey brain and provide the body systemically, gives the body an opportunity to totally regenerate and rejuvenate. So you can see how it can go hand in hand. And that's one example of a flotation tank. Massage therapy too, and I'm a qualified therapist many years ago. I stopped practicing it, but massage therapists as well have a lot of studies have been done to show that there's a psychological therapeutic approach or outcome, I should say, with massage therapy. So really interesting stuff there. So further to that, if you guys haven't got the functional recovery systems, I'll upload that if it hasn't already done that into the technical portal. And I've actually put references there for studies that have been done and shown to improve a psychological outcome. So especially if we think of oxytocin, if you think massage, there's a touch, right? So a lot of us may think there's a muscular skeletal kind of element to it, more of a muscular, maybe fascial element. But even that alone can also have that therapeutic, psychological therapeutic effect. So when we're talking recovery from either a passive or an active perspective, we're going to have a therapeutic effect that's psychological as well as physical. Now, there's a third dimension, and this is a crucial one. If you guys are now doing group classes, there's a social element. So it's a biopsychosocial model. And that social element allows everyone to appreciate recovery together. And the more that you can do that, you're creating a community connection outcome as well. So I don't think there's any studies that have actually worked on that particular facet of recovery. But the beauty of that here is that, going back to what we do in Momentum, is because we want to practice what we preach, is that at the end, we do focus a section on what we call restore. So for us, it fits within that kind of philosophy of restore. And we spend a good 5 minutes minimum going through a structured, what is known as a warm down or cool down, or what is known, in other words, as restoring and regenerating the physical and the psychological dimension of our makeup. So that's kind of putting a bit of embellishing some context to it. Now, for each of you, your sessions may be different. And here's where really you need to think about this, whether you're doing a one-on-one small group, right? Or specifically classes. Recovery can be a little different for each of those. So obviously you've got a group, you're going to have that social aspect where you're promoting recovery. And the other thing that's really cool here, guys, if you're doing groups, whether small or large, is you can kind of have that little bit of chit chatter as well at the end of it. And that's an opportunity for you coaches to provide feedback or create a feedback mechanism for how they felt for each one. Because often feedback is, hey guys, okay, I've got to run, I've got to go to, I don't know, work, or I've got to rush off somewhere, right? For dinner, could be. Now, you really can only place, we can only appreciate what we value, right? So if we don't put any value on recovery, and we don't teach that to our clients, then they're going to rush off and not place any value on it, right? And have any importance. So one of the important things there is, even at the very beginning, when you're indoctrinating each of your members, what we do now is we have the recovery checklist that I'll share with you in a moment. Now, the beauty of this, guys, this is a real simple plug and play here, is that you print that off A4, and we're creating magnets out of this for our members when they come in. And they put it on their fridge or wherever, where it's visible, right? So how we make things easy and how we create habit is to make it visible, okay? So where it's visible, we can then, again, make it easy for them to go, well, what are you working on today, for example, right? For each client. So it has to, this is another level where we need to really be considerate, is each of your clients will have a different facet of their recovery or their journey of recovery. So you can't just paint everyone with a broad brush. We can say, generally speaking, though, that if we follow a certain structure, that most people will get a good benefit from recovery in this sense. However, if we want to be more specific, then we'll need to make sure that we properly assess each client. So is everyone getting that at the moment? Everyone's, yeah, cool. I just want to make sure that for you guys, it's being understood, because it's not, I don't want to kind of just come into this presentation and go, hey, recovery is for everyone. It's good for everyone, right? But it needs to be specific as well. In groups, a little bit different now. So this is where, even if you're doing group training, and here at Momentum, we're going to single out, right, individuals who need recovery more, because we're still assessing each person before they enter a class. So that's where we start incorporating the recovery concepts. Not when they come in and go, hey, by the way, we do recovery. Because if we do that, and they're already in, they're going to go, well, okay, you haven't mentioned it at the very beginning. So the expectation is that recovery really isn't important because you haven't mentioned that at the very beginning. So recovery needs to be something that you value and place value on at the very beginning of that client's journey, right? So whether it's a one-on-one context, small group, or larger team training. So here's the thing I'm going to do now, guys, and you're going to each get the template of this as well. But let me share the screen now. Actually, before we do that, I might get you guys to unmute and just get a bit of a response of each of you here. Who does recovery? Who values recovery? And who finds that clients benefit from recovery? So who wants to just have a go? You can have a hand up or whatever. Yeah, so Marianne?
Yeah, highly value it. I work with a lot of athletes, so
Okay.
it's big on my agenda. Teenagers love it, and it's when they muck around and you learn a lot about their personality. So I train teens every afternoon of the week, and they would all get on foam rollers and use stretching bands, and they all know what they need to do, and I just walk around and chat. And it's when you hear a lot of their conversations and you hear about their lives, and you have a chat to them when their next event is or what their next goal is, and you just tap in with them. So although they're all recovering and they spend 10 minutes normally at the end of every session, it's a really good chance to just get a chance to just chat to each of them individually.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And in every group session we do, so we have 22 group sessions a week with adults. Every group session has a cool down of 5 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, excellent.
And again, it's more relaxed than the rest of the session.
Yeah.
So it's just a really nice vibe to finish off. The music changes. There's normally a song some of them sing along to.
That's brilliant. That's great. I appreciate you sharing that because, you know, that's the other psychological benefit is that we start to de-stress the body, guys. So whether it's an athlete or whether it's, you know, your general populations or special populations, whatever it may be, the outcome there is that we de-stress. So we lower the cortisol amounts. That training is a stressor on the body. And we increase the eustress, yeah? So the important thing there is that we start to tap into the different neurotransmitters, yeah? So we want to be in more of a relaxed state before we leave, especially in the evening. You know, the nervous system gets wired up, okay? And it's hard to sleep. You would have heard, and a lot of potentially your clients, you're going, well, how come you couldn't sleep last night? And you're going, well, we trained and then we just didn't recover. We just said, yep, go and whatever, right? And this is really important. This is where I think the ramifications of lack of recovery take place. And so that's a big one, guys. A real big flag there, red flag, is if you don't incorporate recovery and you've done any type of gear 3, 4, or 5 session, they're going to be wired up, okay? And it's going to take them hours to bring those stress levels down. So again, in this session, I can't cover every facet, but you can kind of see where this is going, yeah? And why I'm placing real big emphasis and importance on this. Now, Marianne, because you're doing athletes, and Stephen Bird is really good. I'm just trying to think of his book. I'm having a memory blank, but look up Dr. Stephen Bird.
Yeah.
He's written a book with a basketball Beveridge, Rob Beveridge. You may know him. So get his book, and yeah, he's excellent, good guy. And then, are you actually in the tribe? Are you doing any of the MFT MRC stuff, Marianne?
I'm about to start.
Yeah, good one. So go in the events or go in past post. What I might do is I might repost that for everyone's benefit, because I know that everyone in here, including John and Ruth and Eng, are part of that program as well. So excellent. Thank you for sharing. Did you want to mention anything else?
No, the only other thing we've started doing was at the end of the evening classes, they have an option to stay 5 minutes later and do a Headspace meditation. And we just put on
excellent.
the Headspace app.
Oh, nice.
And we turn the lights down, and people can not stay if they don't want to. But originally we were getting like probably 10 to 15% staying, and now we get about 90 to 95% staying. And just each week's new Headspace app, the 5-minute one, we put on, and pretty much all the guys are staying now too, which before they all left.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So actually that's wonderful. So tapping into technology, folks.
And we don't have to prepare it, so it's not our voice.
That's great. Yeah. And there's so many types of apps, but that's a very, you found that's a very good app.
Well, we use 3. We use Headspace, Calm, and Smiley Minds. So my daughter's a state netballer, and they're the 3 that were recommended to them a couple of years ago, and I still think they're the 3 best.
I love Calm.
Yeah, because Stephen Bird recommends Smiley Minds because he does a lot of mindfulness too. The other one is Heart Math Institute. If you guys want to really get into the understanding of the heart and the brain connection, Heart Math Institute.
Okay.
So they're properly researched the coherence between the heart and the brain. And now further to that, they're showing that studies that there are 3 facets. There's the gut, there's the actual heart, and there's the brain. And so in this, you want to have coherence. And I do that every night. So, well, to be honest, most nights, I'll do about up to 10 minutes of it's called Inner Balance. That's the technology they use. And it tracks the heart rate variability. And it checks in. It's amazing through the signaling through that heart rate variability, whether you're off course or whether your mind's kind of going elsewhere. It's like, I noticed that I was a bit off on Sunday, I had a few sort of challenges, and I was right down. And I go, man, this is really kind of accurate. But I know when I'm in coherence, I'm, really at a higher level, right? So my focus is excellent. So that, again, like, really appreciate you sharing that, Marianne. There's lots of awesome, and they're not even like invasive, right? I put a little clip on the ear. It's not invasive. And they can be very affordable. That one cost me actually $260, but the app is free. And for me, it's not a problem spending that amount of money. But if you're doing it in a class scenario, everyone can just grab their phone, right, and then download Smiley Minds or whatever one that you wanted to use to actually, help you along that journey. So what I'll do is I'll look to get a compilation in the functional recovery systems. There's a bit on technology there that Dr. Luke DeVecchio has helped me on, because he's more of a science whiz than I am. So he's really helped me get a lot of that research there. And there's those apps there. Can you share those 3 apps again, Marianne, that you use?
Headspace is my number one.
Yeah.
And we just play it over the stereo system, and everyone just lies down and does it, but they can leave if they need to. And then there's Smiley Minds and there's Calm, CALM.
Perfect. Okay, appreciate that. And then there's Inner Balance, but that is a little bit different, which maps to Heart Math Institute. So they're excellent to look into. That's brilliant. I appreciate you sharing that. Now I'm going to share the screen, and just going to see if that's the one. Yeah. All right. So see how I've adapted it from Stephen, so I've got this, sort of designed it this way. And again, there's no hard or fast rule, but it's a bit more than just being general. However, I look at these areas as being key, right? So I've got neuromuscular recovery active. And so what I put here so let me just take a step back. So the whole idea is for athletes, what Stephen did for his athletes is he created what's called a 100-point recovery checklist. So within a given week, his athletes needed to achieve 100 points, right? And that 100 points correlated to anything from active to passive, to mindfulness, to meditation, whatever it may have been, right? That he prescribed. And so they needed to track that. And what he found is ultimately that the athletes that went through that, actually their injuries reduced over a longer term. So he did a whole, obviously, study over a long period of time. So it's proven through the studies that he's done for his athletes, okay? So again, we can construe from that for our general populations, or obviously athletes, depending, recovery is very good overall. Now, let's go back to this table now. Now, I've kind of customized it to kind of aim for 84 points a week, right? So I'm not going to kind of potentially aim for 100. Now, what I would say is that you have an outcome, right? So the outcome is 84. But if let's say if your client goes, oh, damn, I missed out by 2, and their personality type is really driven, you don't want to get there, right? So you might have a tier thing where you say 84 is like excellent, 74 is very good, and then 60 is, okay, satisfactory or something like that. So again, I haven't gone to that degree of customization, and that's to my point earlier that you can further customize this. But in any case, guys, this is pretty simple. And this is where what we're doing is we're taking this and creating a magnet for our clients so that they can then put in, okay, Sunday, whatever the date is, they might tick, let's say, attended functional recovery class. I put here, for example, 5 points. The recovery class is a standalone class. I'm relaunching this, by the way, in our gym. We used to have a dedicated yoga coach, Kevin, but he didn't quite call it, we didn't call it yoga, of course, but he incorporated that amongst other things. In any case, we kind of through the COVID period, we're able to then rethink this, and particularly myself, around recovery. So we're going to relaunch again in September, and have dedicated at least 2 in the evening recovery classes for this purpose. So that's where this comes into it. Attended a recovery class on Monday, tick, yeah. Foam roller, trigger point, right? Now, this is separate to the end of the section of your classes. This is their homework, if you like, what they do outside of your sessions. So you might say, okay, Eng, I need you to focus on lower limb, foam rolling, calves, quads, okay? All I want you to do is just give me, 3 minutes of that, or 2 minutes each leg. And then Eng goes, yep, cool. And then I've given Eng to do it Tuesday and Thursday, right? So Eng's tick those, 1, 2, 3. Stretching flows. So Marianne, okay, I'm going to get you a specific stretching flow to do. It's more for the anterior kinetic chain and those fascial lines. I'm going to get you focusing on that, for example, right? So you might have stretching flows, and I'm going to give you that, let's say, Monday and Wednesday. And they're only like 5 minutes each. So again, try not to make it too difficult. Like if your client can't commit to another hour or 2 hours outside, just chunk it down. Like 5 minutes is better than nothing, yeah? Okay, so that's an example. Now you've got breathing drills. So again, I've left this open that you guys can customize this, right? Breathing drills. I'm a big proponent of functional breathing. My friend Patrick runs Oxygen Advantage, Patrick McKeown, and I think I've promoted him a lot, and he's sort of world-renowned for breathing and functional breathing for athletes, non-athletes alike. So I might give you like a 4-minute breathing drill that I designed specifically, let's say, for you, Ruth, right? So I say, Ruth, okay, I'm going to get you sort of in the evening to do like a mindfulness breathing, right? Very easy to follow, 4 minutes, bang, okay? And you're going to follow a tempo, right? So we call this a cyclical type breath work. And then you've got other here. So whatever that other may be, right? So I can't list everything, but this is the beautiful thing about it, is you might just go like, you see me, I've got a little bias here because I believe in these things, but there could be other stuff there that's lying within the neuromuscular recovery. It could be the banded stuff, right? That you talked about, Marianne. It could be something to do with some banded type work with stretching, or a yoga flow, whatever it is. I put stretching flows, you put yoga flows. Now I've got a neuromuscular recovery passive. And again, I'm a big believer in chiro, massage. I kind of get those fairly regularly, especially sort of managing my injuries, sporting injuries that I've had. Again, ice baths, I don't really do them. I do want to try them one day. So whatever it is that's passive in nature, where again, it could be a psychological phenomena that still ties into some physical outcomes, right? It could be the floating tank, for example, too. And then we have I've sort of delineated here the psychological recovery. So again, you could argue that breathing could be here, it could be both, right? But anyway, I've got here slept 7 or 8 hours. Now, what I haven't done here is I haven't delved into the quality of sleep. I mean, we could spend hours and hours on this alone, but we can track the quality of sleep. And I'm starting to do that myself. I get up in the morning and I try to analyze, get my dreams, but I also go, well, how many times did I wake up in the night? Why was that the case? It allows me to kind of go, well, I feel good because I slept had a good 6-7 hours, right? Anyway, right? So you want to promote a good, and generally speaking, these are guidelines, 7 or 8 hours. Maybe for athletes, of course, Marianne, it could be more, and it probably should be more. And for kids as well. I think Roger Federer kind of gets 10 hours minimum a night's sleep, and you're going to say what he's wasting his time sleeping. The greatest of all time. The other one here is use sleep aids, right? So I don't know if you guys sort of use any sort of dim lights in the house. I've used I'm using in my house, especially after 8 p.m. So what happens is when melatonin kicks in, actually 7 p.m. My apologies, about 7 p.m. I put on the salt lamps that I have, lights, and they've done some type of pseudo studies on them, but I love them because they actually dim the whole place. So I use a couple of salt lamps anyway, but you could also wear eye shades. and really get rid of some of the bad lighting as well that you get from screens, etc. So obviously, actually plugging out of technology is really important. Or getting those Blu-ray glasses. There's heaps of them out there that are improving now. So I have Blu-ray glasses that get rid of or actually mitigate the risk of Blu-ray light getting in, which increases cortisol production. So you want to increase melatonin production at night. And then I do a mindfulness meditation. I've included that there, whatever that may be for you guys, okay? Could be prayer, could be meditation, mindfulness, breathing, whatever you guys want. And I put an allocation of 4 points there. And here again, like, you guys can place more importance on other things relevant to your client or your athletes, Again, I've got other. Now, again, here, I didn't want to harp too much on this, but because I spoke to Luke about this, and it's general guidelines, because things change in the world of movement, nutrition in a heartbeat, right? So, like, in the old days, I said, yeah, everyone needs to get like within a 60-minute, that's 60 minutes, by the way, post-workout. Generally speaking, that could be a good idea, but doesn't necessarily, what kind of calories should go in, right? So depending on your body type, like, some people might need like protein, some might need lean greens, green vegetables, some people might just need extra carbohydrates, right? So in any case, I've just put here protein, whole foods, and I've followed Stephen Bird's line here, 60 minutes, within the 60-minute window, I should say. That should read. And then hydration. Again, they're saying that it's when you have the need for thirst. Now, not everyone is really in tune to when they're thirsty or hungry. So when someone's in tune, or they're intuit when they're thirsty, that's how they can detect hydration. So, for example, Ruth, for example, like you may need 2 liters, I may need 4 liters, depending on my body type. I'm not going to go into that depth, but a general guideline is 2 to 3 liters. And then again, that's further dependent on your activities, right? So roughly needing 1 liter per hour of exercise. But again, depending on the strenuous nature of exercise, depending on how much someone profusely sweats. So this is a general guideline. And then the other, whatever that might be, it could be supplementation, right? So you might have provided magnesium to a client in the evening as a relaxant, or something else, right? Vitamins, of course. So I haven't been sort of like militant with any of this. And so at the end here, guys, you can see that we have goals, right? And so that those goals there, roughly speaking, so you could be like 20 points within a Monday, for example, but you want to make it achievable, realistic, and you don't want to have your clients go into a state of failure. Like, if they haven't achieved 84, like, I know I'm a bit driven like that. Like, if I don't achieve that, I'm like, down on myself a bit. So really make it achievable, and work with your client on it. Say, look, what do you think about this? Like, if you just dictate everything and go, guess what, I want you to do this, because you might think it's good for them, probably is, right? But you want to get their consent. So that's when you work with the client or athlete. But you want to, as I said before, you want to promote this at the very beginning. So everyone now in our gym, when they sign up, they get their welcome pack, they get an induction booklet, they get this now as a magnet, they put on the fridge, and they're encouraged to keep it visible, and they're encouraged according to what they need specifically to address any of these recovery protocols. And some people could fall into, focusing more on an active, or it could be a mixture of all 4. Okay. So it could be a predominance for one over another. So, now the final thing I wanted to show you guys in this part, now in the next week, I want to go through actually constructing a recovery class. What I wanted to do is actually get you guys ticking over as to the importance of recovery, number 1. Number 2, here's a simple system checklist that makes it easy and visible, and you can customize it. So I'll send these templates, as I mentioned, post this call, and I'll also add them into the portal, okay, in Success Club. Now, I'm just going to grab this spreadsheet. Now, if you're a bit sort of more prone here to using spreadsheets, this is really cool, because actually Luke did this. He helped me out, so he's a good whiz on these ones here. So again, this is really easy, guys. So this maps everything that I discussed, and all the formulas are there already. You can see, yeah. So it's going to change to negative, and then this further part here ticks into more of a positive spectrum. So going from poor to very good, so goal oriented. Okay, so this is really cool. This is your other piece of tool that I think will serve you guys really well. So I suppose the task for you guys, both here and those who are coming in to watch this presentation later, is number one, think about how you value recovery within your own practice. Really important to introspect. And now if you don't value it, you're not going to pass it on. And my encouragement to you is to really consider this quite seriously, because there's a lot of stress out there, right? I mean, COVID alone kind of just amplified it. So there's a lot of fear, a lot of stress. So your recovery is going to be more important than ever. That's my contention to all of you guys. And I'm taking it more seriously within my own practice, and certainly why I'm now advocating this from an educational perspective. So that's the sort of encouragement to you guys. Now, further to that, start to implement recovery even after your sessions. Like, actually make it a non-negotiable, right? Important enough is the warm-up, but the cool down, okay, or the recovery is just as important as the totality of your session. So incorporate that. Next week, we will cover a recovery class, and I've got a template that I've designed. And I suppose lastly is think about each of your clients and what they need, and then customize a plan for them. They're going to love you for it. You're going to go, hey, Ruth, guess what? What I've done for you here is I've created a recovery checklist, and you've had a chat, right? So I had a chat with Ruth. Ruth said, yeah, I need more of this, this, and that. Okay, what can we achieve, Ruth? Okay, so we know that, Ruth has a spare half an hour at 6 p.m., whatever it is. Even if you're watching television, right, or whatever, you can use, if you do the foam rolling, and you can actually incorporate it within your environment. So look at your environment, whether it's work too, and recovery can be incorporated within your environment. I mean, we've got like everything from dowel rods and, foam rollers lying in the office, right? So, you can hack away at that too. And finally, sorry, everyone, is that start to think about, you can customize this, right? And again, customize the degree or value that you place in each of these. So understandably, I put attending a recovery class once a week, man, that could even be a 6 points, right? And so the others might be just a bit more minimal. Doesn't mean that they're less important or not important, but certainly they will add up, right, in the long term. So a little bit of play around for you guys until, I suppose, the next session. So there's a couple of templates that I will share for each of you. So I hope you really got a ton of value from that. Now, what I do is I get everyone to unmic, and then if you have specific questions. So that's part one. Part two will be getting into constructing a recovery class. So let's unmute. Let's have a bit of a chat if you guys wish to do so. Any questions?
With the meditations, would you count that as a functional breathing, or would you have a separate functional breathing to your meditation?
Yeah, it's a good point, Ruth. And that's one thing I deliberated, like I didn't agonize on, but I thought, well, it's both, right? So it has a physiological and a psychological outcome to it. So I think it can be both, So I use breath work a lot in mindfulness, and it works. I know that. So when I use my inner balance, if my breath is out, I won't be synchronized. So yeah, it's a very good point. It has a physiological outcome. And I think I'm a firm believer more than ever that the mind and body are connected. Like you can't, it's not, it's not a reductionist thing, right? But sometimes we need to define or have definitions of what constitutes something for the mind and what constitutes something for the body. But it's a very, very good question. Yeah.
Because on the Calm app, there was one, because I use the Calm app every night. There's a 15-minute meditation that you can use. It's not meant to be for nighttime. It's meant to be for any time during the day, but I happen to use it at nighttime. And they had one that was, I noticed because of the breathing things that you've done, about making sure that your in-breath is the same length as your out-breath, and that you've got the gap at each end. And it was, whether it was just for this meditation or whether that's how they think that you should always breathe, I'm not sure. But it was definitely, making sure that you're both your inhalation and exhalation were the same amount of time, because otherwise, if you're going, you're actually not fully filling your lungs, and you're not getting that whole breath circulating around your body, and you're not getting that mind-body, like you say, that mind-body relax and the meditation that you need.
Yeah, when you hyperventilate there, guys, and Ruth, thank you for bringing that up. What I learned, because I'm an instructor for the Oxygen Advantage, is that when you hyperventilate, it's a stress response. So I know that the Wim Hof method, there's a bit of hyperventilation. So I've now, what Patrick says is breathe light to breathe right. So he has this concept here, and it's very good because, I've got a bit of induced asthma from training at times, so my inflammation can be quite high. So I manage that through the breathing, and all through COVID, that I did all of these breathing drills that helped me so much, phenomenally, So, and you can incorporate it now. This is another thing we can't cover, but you can incorporate that as a warm up. So if you do breathing drills to increase the amount of cortisol, therefore as a preparation drill alone, and they're great. And conversely, to warm down or reduce the amount of cortisol. So that's where breathing is pretty phenomenal from that perspective. That's good. Some good thoughts there, Ruth. Anyone else? Eng, you got some thoughts, or John, Christine?
I'm starting to do more, just slight recovery at the end of the session, like the last 5 to 10 minutes, more just using the stretchy bands and having a basic stretch, and then also starting with foam rolling at the beginning of a session, just to get people used to it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I mean, you see, again, foam rolling can be done before or after. So there's studies to support both as being, very good for pre-session, post-session, and for recovery. So thanks for sharing that, John.
All right. I'll see you later. I've got to fly.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sticking on. Anyone else that wants to comment? Otherwise, what I will do from here, folks, is what I'll do is I'll send through to in the groups, as in Success Club, the functional recovery systems. I think some of you have already downloaded it. Now, within that, like, I've written a full blog and I've put videos in there, but at the very end, I have 3 links there. So those 3 links are for the 2 templates that I showed you here for the recovery structure. So that was the Excel document, and also the Word file. So I've actually, I've done that. And the third one is the template to create the class, which we will cover next week. So you can have a look in advance. So after this call, I will post this into the group, as well as that functional recovery system. So really appreciate all of you for hanging in there. I've really enjoyed this session because I feel it's so powerful for your athletes, for every client under the sun. It doesn't matter who, and it's good for you as well. I can guarantee that. Now, next week, as I said, I'm teaching 3 full days, so I will have our Technique Tuesday, which would be later in the week. But I will let you guys all know that. So I appreciate each one of you. Keep strong, folks, and start to now manufacture your own sense of recovery for you first, and then start to think about valuing that from a high level of importance, if that's what you choose to do, before your clients enter. And it's certainly educating them, guys, in a workshop format, which we'll talk more about next week. So, guys, all the best for the rest of the week. And I look forward to hearing some more success stories based on this recovery system. So thanks for all being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.